Well, hello and welcome to episode number 361 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. In this week's news pack show, Ryanair spends some money on a new sim, one airline performs an over 20-hour flight, and one airline has a wedding in the sky. In the military this week, NATO Interceptors are scrambled 10 times in 6 hours. The RAF are set to retire older Typhoons and Chinooks, and the Future RAF will mix crewed fighters, UAVs, and swarming drones. So joining me this week, as always, across the village in the P2K Master Suite studio, is the master of all things radio on Park Radio. It is Matt Smith.
I've done 2 shows, that hardly counts, let's be honest. But yes, it's a lot of fun doing that, you know. I can see why you like this DJing malarkey.
Another hats off to you again for this afternoon's 12 till 3 show, Matt. Well done.
yeah. A slightly different format as well, which sort of threw me a bit, because I sort of got used to one particular format and then another one was thrown back into the mix. So not ideal, but there we go. It's all part of the challenge, isn't it?
Well, you helped me while I was washing the van earlier. It was quite nice to have you on while I was doing that.
Always happy to be of service.
Well done. So, joining us as well this week across the lands and the sands and the fields and the valleys over in Buckinghamshire, in glorious sunshine I think he's had today, whereas we've had overcast coldness here, it is, of course, Neville Bounds.
Yes, hello there. Well, I actually went down to the New Forest today, right on the south coast of the UK, and it was beautiful down there, about 14 degrees, but sun was out, and I've caught the sun, a bit of wind burn as well, I think.
Doesn't take much with you, Nev, I've got to be honest.
Just have to look at it. And no, it was great, really, really good. But I think we're all in for a bit of a shock on Monday. I think we've got sleet and snow and sort of 4 and 5 degrees, so take advantage whilst we can.
Absolutely.
And that is why Nev spent a lot of time underneath the wing of the A380 when we were at Dubai a few years ago, just for that reason.
Yes, exactly right. I had forgotten about that. Yeah.
So you may have noticed that we are missing a member of the team this week. Unfortunately, Armando can't be with us due to work and flying commitments, so that's always good. But he has sent in some very nicely well done video segments for us, so you will still get to see it on this.
Hey guys, I'm sorry that I'm not able to join you all live this week. I was planning on it, but as you can imagine, aviation is one of those industries that requires a little bit of flexibility. And thus, this week, I'm required to go back out to California. Not that it's exactly a rough life out there. So I'll be traveling back out to California this Friday, and actually I'll be traveling home next Friday during the show, so I'm going to be missing you guys and the chat room and all our listeners for the next couple weeks. But I'm sure you guys will do just a great job with the military.
He's ever hopeful, isn't he?
Oh, we do miss him when he's not here. Yeah. Honestly, it is like we're at the wheel, and Armando is a huge part of that wheel.
When it comes to the military, absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, we do love our acronyms, don't we, Nev?
Oh, I'm just nervous as to what he's got in store for us tonight, because he's not there to take all the abuse.
Yes, indeed. Is he going to get his own back? That's the question.
Likely.
What we need is a super sub for when Armando can't make it, like a military super sub. That's
right. Okay. Well, you know, we'll leave you in charge of that. Shall
Answers on a postcard, guys and girls. Yeah. Anyway, so just a quick roundup, actually, as to what's going on this week. And in the news, we heard this week that Malta will be accepting people onto the island from June. So it's good news, because it does look like, hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, all the usual stuff, 4-leaf clovers and what have you, that me and Nev will hopefully be able to make it out to the Malta Air Show this year. So, Nev, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it's a runner unless something catastrophic happens, but I think both of us will have had both of our jabs probably by then as well. So I think that's looking very good. And even had a bit of communication from Captain Al this week as well, who has expressed a little bit of interest. So we might see him coming over to, and if he does, we'll have to do lots of interviews with ice cream vendors, as we always do.
Actually, if any of our listeners or any people listening to the audio podcast, if you are thinking that maybe you might make it out to the Malta Air Show at the end of September this year, just give us a note, or give us an email or a message, and it'd be great to see you there on the island. So, yeah, me and Nev will be there for the 2 days, hopefully, all being well. But, Nev, it is that time of the month. It's the beginning of the month, a fresh month, and it's time to say thank you to a few certain people, Nev.
It is, and of course we couldn't do this show without the fabulous listeners and viewers that donate to us. So this month's Patreon donors are Nicholas Codling, Warren Dixon, Louis Chares, Andrew van der Sarg, Alan White, Stephen Howland, Tanya Wyman, Megan Carrion, Jacob Darlington Brown, Nicholas Hewitt, Masha, Owen, Ruben Wells, Graham Haley, Jonathan Warner, Eric Graves, Matt Caton, Jordan Rose, Andrew Wilson, Captain Jeff, Adam Spink, Liz Piper, Jeff Ward, Myla, Evan Shue, Philip Labe, Stuart Backer, Ray Williams and Stephanie Plummer. And those who have donated by the traditional PayPal method are Alan Loveday, Jennifer Parkinson, Tony Stubbings, Mazuz Karim and Lee Davis. Thank you very much to one and all. As I say, your contributions are extremely valuable and they help us keep the show on the air.
Yeah, it's worth us noting as well, for you guys and girls who have contributed to the show, that we've been able to invest in a little piece of kit for John, our producer, and John is now able to view things on a decent sized screen, or more than one screen actually now, because he's got himself a nice new monitor, which is helping him out so much. So thank you to everyone who donates to the show, because now John finds it slightly easier to see what's going on.
No. What's happened is it's now easier for him to be even more bossy than he was before.
So for everyone who watches the show or watches us on social media, you may have noticed on Facebook we ran a little caption competition on there this week. And Matt, I think you've got the picture that we ran on our Facebook page this week, because we did have a few contenders. I should say people who did mention stuff on there. So I'm just going to scroll. Here we go. So the picture, as you can see, is a very nice picture there of a replacement window on on an aircraft. And we had some comments. One from Steve says, as relaxed as Matt was pretending to be diving into the latest sports news, he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that he was on board another wretched 757.
Good point, well made. Yes, absolutely.
Alan says, upon boarding, Nev was happy that the man in sandals had booked seat 1A. He quickly returned to the lounge to book a later flight.
Quite, absolutely.
Stuart says, see how old that sellotape is. It's been there for years. Nothing to worry about. Like that one. And our very own Captain Al says, nothing to see here.
No, literally. Now, of course, thanks to... Actually, I'm glad you mentioned Captain Al there, because, of course, thanks to the marvellous Plain Truth segments that we've been so proudly running over many weeks now, I now know that actually the little perspex bit that's inside there is not particularly important, because actually it's the glass that's on the outside that's very important. Therefore, actually, weirdly, that picture doesn't bother me, because all they've done is covered it up. So thanks to Captain Al and the marvellous Plain Truth segment. Something that would under normal circumstances worry me is no longer worrying me.
And there you go. When you get to come around here, Matt, you can actually poke and prod this one, but on the wall. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
See what it's all about. So
I don't know what to do with that information.
Moving on to the chat room. And just to say hello to everyone in the chat room who's joined us in the world of YouTube this evening. Richard Adams, hello to you. We've got Pilot Pip in there. Jenny over in Rome, hello to you, Jenny. Alan White. We've got Rich from Sheffield, hello to you. We've got Masha, across there. Hope you're well, Masha. Lane, obviously, Lane is a very big part of the chat room. Couldn't do a show without Lane. We've got Neil Lamborn. Hello to you, Neil. And scrolling down, John. Hello to John's in there as well. Nice to see John in there, keeping an eye on us from all levels. John is, and also Rakon as well. Hello to you.
Can't get away from him.
Hope you are well, and to everyone who's joined us in the live YouTube chat room, thank you for coming in there tonight. And don't forget, if you are listening to this show as an audio podcast and you fancy coming over and seeing the madness that is the YouTube chat room, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on our YouTube page, Plain Talking UK, and also hit that bell icon, which is right next door, to be notified when we are live, just like we did before we went live, or when we went live, the little pings on our various devices, because we'd love to have you in the chat room with us.
I've just seen a picture of myself, actually. This is the trouble with this camera malarkey, and I've just realised how desperate I am now for a haircut. Thank goodness.
I'm having one tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, are you?
Yeah. I've got my barber's coming tomorrow to do my hair.
Right. That's your wife, right?
Yes, that is, man.
I was going to say, hang on a minute. We're not allowed to do that yet. What's going on?
Feel free to pop round, Matt. The clips will be out ready.
Okay, lovely. Okay.
Oh, so we are going to start the show then, as we do, and as if John doesn't need a haircut. Anyway, we are going to start the show as we do each week with a rundown of the weekly news from across the world and the UK. So if you are all ready.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. So, kicking off this week's first news story, this one comes to us from Reuters.com and avweb.com. And it's kind of an update, really, on the SRIWIJAYA. Yeah, SRIWIJAYA? I can never pronounce this one properly. SRIWIJAYA, that's it. There we go. Thank you, John. The 7th SRIWIJAYA. There we go. We're going to have to do the little audio clip on there. Edit that one out later. So the Indonesians recovered the cockpit voice recorder of this aircraft. You remember, they couldn't find the data module. So they've recovered the cockpit voice recorder of the jet that crashed into the Java Sea in January. The air accident investigators said on Wednesday it could take up to a week to be able to listen to the recording. The CVR could help investigators understand the actions taken by the pilots of the doomed jet, which crashed shortly after takeoff on January the 9th, killing all 62 on board. A preliminary report by investigators released in February said the plane had an imbalance in engine thrust that eventually led to a sharp roll and then a final dive into the sea. The report included information as well from the FDR, or the flight data recorder. Divers found the casing and beacon of the CVR from the 26-year-old Boeing 737-500 within days of the crash, but had been searching for the memory unit in relatively shallow but muddy waters where currents are sometimes strong. The CVR of the going to get this right one day. SRIWIJAYA Flight 182 was located late on Tuesday, Indonesian Transport Minister told a media conference. And naval officials said it had been found under a metre of mud. God, they've done well to find that, guys. Investigators report that the memory unit, which was recovered using dredging equipment, is undamaged. They'll now take the module and the CVR to a lab for reading, which can take about 3 days to 1 week. Indonesia National Transportation Safety Committee head Suryarto Tjahjono said. Easy for you to say, John. After that, he said they'll transcribe and match it to flight data without a CVR. The crash of 182 case would be very difficult to determine a cause. It's worth noting, right, that last week I tried a flight on the sim here at home, and I done a fault with an engine, engine failure just after takeoff, and I found it incredibly hard to control. And I also probably need a bit of training, but it is difficult when you have that imbalance of thrust on one side, especially when you're in takeoff power climbing out. But yeah, I'm glad they found us, guys. It's obviously going to make a big difference to the investigation for this crash.
I mean, I'm just going to have to take your word for it because I have no marker to be able to compare that with. It's just you know, you only have the one engine in a coach.
Yes. Yeah.
But then it's on the ground, I suppose. But so
and Dr. Steph is currently listening to the show on board a E175.
Oh, through the in-flight Wi-Fi,
as
one does.
Oh, very nice. Nice to see you, Steph. Glad to have you on board. Anyway, moving swiftly on to the next story. And Matt, Ryanair have spent some of that money they've got in the bank.
Right, okay. Does an airline have money in the bank after this last sort of 13 months or whatever? Anyway, story number 2 is the usual. It is a Ryanair story, and the headline is Ryanair purchased a second Boeing 737 MAX simulator in preparation for pilot training. So according to flight simulation training devices manufacturer MPS, Ryanair has ordered an MPS Boeing 737 MAX FTD-2 to be delivered to its facility in Dublin, Ireland. This purchase is made after the airline placed an order for 75 additional Boeing MAXes. In total, the group has 210 aircraft on order. Ryanair will use the Boeing 737 MAX FTD-2 for type rating and other training in line with the EU's ungrounding of the Boeing 737 MAX. CEO Michael O'Leary said that the simulator could be certified as soon as early April. The carrier would then accept delivery of 16 planes by the lucrative summer season. The newly ordered simulator is not the first one for Ryanair. The first Boeing 737 MAX simulator was taken in March 2019 and is placed in London Stansted Airport. In total, the airline plans to have 5 simulators for the Boeing 737 MAX, and as of 2019 operates 12 full flight sims and 7 fixed-based sims. It's sort of quite interesting there, actually, and it also in related news, the 737 MAX 8200 receives the FAA certification, which is definitely good news. The Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, said on Wednesday that it had approved the design for the Boeing 737-8200, part of the Boeing 737 MAX series, a necessary step before the US plane maker can begin delivering the planes to Ryanair. So the FAA said that the 737-8200 incorporates all of the design improvements that were part of the 20-month review of the 737 MAX that led to the ungrounding of the MAX back in November. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency still must approve the aircraft, a move that could come soon after FAA approval. Ryanair Group Chief Executive Michael O'Leary did say the last week that the airline expected to receive 8 of the MAX aircraft in April, another 8 in May. According to an internal memo in 2019, Ryanair told its pilots that a delay to the certification was due to an unspecified issue with the jet's second over-wing exit. The 737 MAX 8200 is a modified version of the MAX 8 with a new set of doors along the aft fuselage to increase the seating capacity for up to 200 seats. Ryanair will fly the jet with 197 passengers. Now, just going back slightly to the simulator here, actually, we've got a picture of what this new sim that's going to end up in Dublin is likely to look at. I mean, I mean, I must admit, it's the first time I've seen like the cockpit of the 737 MAX 8200, and I must admit that does look quite comfy. Is that the right word, Nev? Comfy?
Yes, of course. What you're seeing there. It's a bit like, nothing like the real aircraft in the sense that there's a lot of space behind you there. But of course, in the real aircraft, there isn't quite that much.
There's a big door.
No, it looks a pretty nice place to be, doesn't it? Yeah,
definitely.
It does. Me and John had a discussion when we were discussing show stuff yesterday that when I win the Euro Millions next week, I'm going to purchase a new house with one of these simulators in.
Right. Okay. What would if money wasn't an object though, Carlos? If money wasn't an object though, surely it wouldn't be a fixed-based one.
No, I'd get a full
Yeah,
motion.
yeah, I was going to say.
I did say I'd keep it, a full motion.
Right,
sim.
yes. I mean, if money wasn't an object,
And I'd invite all our listeners round to have a go, so that's good.
Right, okay.
Anyway.
And you're winning it this week, right? Just so I know.
Yeah, this coming Wednesday.
Oh, fair enough.
So, Nev, BA have been naughty.
Not that naughty, because they've only been named the second biggest climate polluter. This is on Air Quality News, the UK's gov.uk site and legislation.gov.uk site. It says that Lufthansa, British Airways and Air France were the three biggest airline emitters in 2019, according to data analysed by Transport and Environment and Carbon Market Watch, CMW. The researchers found that Lufthansa was the most polluting airline, responsible for 19.11 metric tonnes of CO2. This was followed by BA, who were responsible for 18.38 metric tonnes, and Air France, who was responsible for 14.39 metric tonnes. The data shows that these airlines do not pay for most of their pollution, with flights entering and exiting Europe currently exempt from the EU carbon market. In the case of Lufthansa, BA and Air France, the airlines do not pay anything for 77%, 86% and 83% of their emissions respectively. The researchers also highlighted that these three airlines were the biggest recipients of airline bailouts during the COVID-19 pandemic. In June, the EU Commission will say whether flights entering and exiting Europe should be brought under the EU Commission's trading system, ETS. It'll also propose a law requiring airlines to start using cleaner fuels such as e-kerosene. After the departure of the United Kingdom from the EU, the UK have put replacement legislation in place which outlines almost identical guidelines to those of the EU ETS system. But in a related story, you might say, British Airways backs ZeroAvia's plan for hydrogen airliner. This is on AI Online and FlightGlobal.com. And it says that British Airways has become the first airline to invest in hydrogen propulsion developer ZeroAvia, the first step in a journey that could see the flag carrier replace its whole short-haul fleet with zero-emission aircraft by 2050. Alongside a group of existing backers, including the Bill Gates-founded Breakthrough Energy Ventures, BA contributed to a total of $24.3 million raised by the California headquartered startup. BA declined to say how much it provides how much it provided for the Series A4 funding round, but the move is designed to allow ZeroAvia to advance the development of a fuel cell-based powertrain suitable for 50 to 70-seater aircraft. Under the accelerated timetable, that aircraft could enter service in 2026, following in the footsteps of a 19-seater, which is scheduled to arrive in 2024. Carrie Harris, who's head of sustainability at the carrier, says BA is looking at specific routes where there could be the opportunity for the early introduction of hydrogen aircraft, whilst adding that a sub-100-seat aircraft would not be entirely alien to BA because its Cityflyer unit flies 76 to 98 seat Embraer E-jets, and it currently operates no regional turboprops, but a class of aircraft that would gain new propulsion system is being developed by ZeroAvia. But Harris sees the potential for a larger hydrogen-based single aisle arriving from 2030, a timeframe that aligns with Airbus's plans to replace its A320neo family. As we start to phase that into the fleet, we believe that by 2050, all short-haul flights could be on zero-emission aircraft, she says, basing that on development of a suitable 180-seater from about 2035 and BA's typical replacement cycle. Well, that's quite a bold program, isn't it, that they're looking at there? But they're trying to get the short-haul aircraft into this sector. I can see that. So, yeah, let's see what happens in the future.
So on one hand, they've been naughty with the pollution-y thing, and on the other hand, they're being clean and green.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what the figures are for 2020 because nobody's been flying, have they? So
True.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one way of looking at it.
The old ozone layers definitely had a a time to
A break,
heal over the
I
last
think,
year, 12 months. Yeah, definitely.
Indeed.
So Armando has got the next story, and this one's a very interesting one, all about UAVs.
From Air Cargo News, Dronamics has launched a cargo drone airline that will manage same-day delivery services with the Black Swan, its flagship unmanned drone. The Black Swan can carry a respectable 350 kilograms of cargo up to 2,500 kilometers at 80% lower cost than any other aircraft, according to Dronamics. The developer and operator of large cargo drones said that its Dronamics airline service will have subsidiaries in Ireland, Australia, and Canada, which are seen as countries that are leaders in drone regulations. Now, as part of its ramp-up for commercial operations, Dronamics has appointed aviation executive Sergio Oliveira da Silva as its chief operating officer, which is a new senior management position for that team. Oliveira said, "I'm very much looking forward to being proud of the team that will bring into the market the next generation logistics networks for e-commerce, pharma, agriculture, shipments, special cargo, and spare parts. I am excited to be again involved in another successful pioneer venture with the aviation logistics industry." Now, as COO, he will be responsible for the setup and operations of the airline business, the deployment of the drone port network, and the upcoming operational authorizations under fast-evolving drone regulations around the globe. Based in London and Sofia, Bulgaria, Dronamics was founded in 2014 by two Rangelov brothers. One is an economist and the other one an aerospace engineer. The company's team includes aerospace and logistics experts and is the winner of IATA's Drone Innovation Award. Now, Dronamics is a private company funded by leading entrepreneurs and executives in aviation, logistics, and technology from the U.S., Europe, Africa, and Asia, as well as Founders Factory, Speed Invest, and 11 Capital. Dronamics is IATA's first strategic partner for drones worldwide and has been named by the European Commission as a top 10 EU-Africa startup. Now, by the time we get to episode 500 in PTUK, we're going to have to split the show into commercial, military, vertical, urban mobility, unmanned, and electric, with the fast evolution of all of these technologies.
I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Oh, I like that. Very good, Armando. He's just right, though. He's right, though. It's going to bloody...
It's going to be four segments, isn't there? It's going to be four parts of the show. It's like commercial, military, drones. Like, yeah. Oh dear.
What do you reckon of this, Nev? This can carry. It says it's going to carry 350 kilos of cargo, which is.
No, I think this is really interesting stuff, and I think it's very interesting, isn't it? Looking across the whole spectrum of aviation at the moment, there's a big push, isn't there, to do new stuff. It doesn't seem to matter what it is, but I'm impressed by some of the innovation that's going on at the moment, and it's all down to timelines and when it's going to happen. But no, I think this is promising, definitely.
Looking forward to seeing if this actually does work as well as it sounds it will do. So, next story, and this is one from Matt. Actually, you'll like this one, Matt, because Matt loves his long flights, especially on 757s. But this one comes to us from airlive.net and linkedin.com, and Commlux sets a world record. So Commlux, which some of you may not have heard about, but Commlux was Boeing 787 Dreamliner operated a massive 20 hours and 19 minutes flight from Seoul to Buenos Aires on March the 26th. The Boeing 787-8 with registration P4787 departed Seoul at 12:57 local time as flight XAA 4787 and landed in Buenos Aires at 21:16. The flight had a great circle distance of 19,483 kilometers, making it the longest non-stop flight with passengers on board. And this was a chartered flight. Qantas operated a special test flight from London Heathrow to Sydney with 49 passengers on, if you may remember that one, aboard a 787-9 Dreamliner, which operated that flight, which it took 19 hours and 16 minutes to complete that flight. So Commlux, who are Commlux? So Commlux is a luxury charter company that operates a range of reconfigured wide bodies, including the 767, 777 and 787. This flight was only possible as the 787-8 carries fewer people than the average 787-8 in commercial service and has a completely VIP interior, increasing its range. The aircraft is registered in Aruba, an island which is a constituent of country of the United Kingdom of the Netherlands in the Caribbean, and was the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Thank you, John. In the Caribbean, it was welcomed into the Commlux family of VIP aircraft, which also include the 777, 767, Airbus A330, A319, A318, and other business jets. So another bit of info as well on the story. The aircraft is not mentioned on the Commlux's website, if you do look, the 787, but it is on their LinkedIn. But the aircraft which done this flight is an ex-Aero Mexico aircraft, registered originally as November 961 Alpha Mike, which is listed as currently being owned by Commlux Aruba under the new reg, as we said, of P4787, and is currently 7.7 years old. So, Matt, what would you reckon? This is a VIP configured interior, so it's obviously going to be extremely comfortable. And I'm guessing, Matt, that you wouldn't mind 20 hours and 19 minutes on said flight.
You had me at the word VIP. That's fine. I can cope with that. I mean, one of the legs that when I came back from New Zealand, one of the legs that I was lucky enough to be in business class, and that was a completely different kettle of fish. It was just glorious, frankly. So yeah, I mean, this is. I mean, who is this going to be aimed at, though? Is this aimed at business travellers then? Do you think, or is it perhaps at the more affluent sort of holiday maker?
Yeah, it's just going to be like heads of state, sort of very important people.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
Yeah, royalty and kind of heads of state especially, but. The aircraft, if you look on the website, if you look at the interior of their 767 and their 777, Matt, these aircraft have staterooms, king-size beds, bathrooms, lounges.
Wow.
These are very, very nice interior aircraft.
We can charter this plane, right?
I mean, Nev would be like, I
mean, every seat would be seat 1A if it were.
Yeah. But yeah, over 20 hours. That's some endurance, isn't it?
No, frankly, if you've got access to a nice bar and a comfortable bed and you can have a shower in the flight, and I mean, it's all just like, I think 20 hours would be long enough.
Yeah, I've spoken to a few people that have done the ultra long Qantas flights.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they were saying, I mean, obviously this is not quite the same, but they were saying that after about 14 or 15 hours,
right,
it gets very difficult, even in the
seats.
nice seats.
Right.
And I remember doing a 13.5 hour flight back from, where was it? Tokyo back to Copenhagen with SAS.
Gosh, right.
And that was. I mean, I was in the cheap seats back in the day, of course, but. Yeah, just 20 hours on an aircraft. Wow. I know it's never enough for Carlos, but it strikes me as being a bit much.
No, he'd if his wife would let him, he'd live on one. There's no two ways about
hell
it.
Yeah. I just look forward to when they sort of configure these with bowling alleys or cinemas inside.
I mean, that could be a bit tricky during turbulence, obviously. But anyway, shall we move on before we get told off?
The next story comes to us. Comes to us from not far from our neck of the woods, I would say. Matt, it's a few hours drive for us, isn't it?
Yeah, Southampton, so sort of down south, isn't it? But the headline from the bbcnews.co.uk, so or bbc.co.uk /news, and the headline is Southampton Airport runway decision put back after rejection. So plans to extend Southampton's airport's runway have been rejected by planning chiefs after a 2-day meeting. Eastleigh's local area committee voted 5-3 against the 164 metre, that's 538 foot extension to allow longer haul flights. The matter will now go to a full council meeting on the 8th of April, where the proposal will be finally decided. The airport bosses said that it was vital for the site's future, but campaigners and some local authorities have raised big objections over noise and pollution. Responding to the vote, Airport Operations Director Steve Sasley said that the committee had gone against the majority of Eastleigh's residents who expressed their support during the consultation. However, this is far from over. We now welcome the opportunity to present our plans to the full council. It is thought that the extension would create more than 1,000 jobs and contribute to the local economy. The Southampton airport is one of 8 across England seeking to expand. The Advisory Climate Change Committee has told ministers that emissions from aircraft must not be allowed to grow overall. That means that if capacity is increased at one airport, then it should contract at another, and no one appears to be volunteering for that. So the committee said that an exception could be made if planes become much more fuel efficient or start flying on low carbon fuels from plants or waste, but these will not be available at scale for some time. The government is yet to decide whether it will follow this advice, although aviation will form part of its transport decarbonisation plan due out after Easter. I mean, it's
Dear. I was just looking at the current runway length of Southampton Airport, and it is not great, I have to say. In feet, it's 5,653 feet, and in metres, it's 1,723. Just to put that as a comparison, Jersey Airport is 6,000 feet long, and Gibraltar Airport is 6,000 feet long. So this is nearly 400 feet less. And the trouble is with delay and this sort of stuff, what I don't quite understand about this is they're talking about planes becoming much more fuel efficient. Well, the stuff that's coming out today is extremely fuel efficient, I would have thought, compared to some of the older stuff back in the day. So I don't really see, obviously there's always environmental objections and there's always local resident objections. I understand all that. But I think this is going to give the airport a big problem, I have to say, because it just will not be able to uplift the amount of cargo, payload and fuel that it needs, the aircraft needs to go to sensible places with, 5,653 feet of runway is not a great deal.
It's worth noting as well, Nev, that if you look at the passenger figures, number of passengers between 2017 and the end of 2019, before COVID, the passenger numbers were going down each year.
Oh, really?
2017 to, yeah, in 2017, that the airport saw just over 2 million passengers pass through the doors. Compare that to 2019, just over 1.7 million. So the numbers.
I mean, if you're looking at the overall picture, though, is there not a strong argument for, doing long haul flights from smaller, more local airports because you aren't having to travel that far, or is the fact that you're using a local airport that carbon footprint impact is not big enough to warrant the? I don't know. It's such a difficult subject, isn't it, to get clarity on.
I suppose when you're dealing with aircraft like the new A321 XLRs and these sorts of things, I mean, obviously their range is fantastic now, but you do need a minimum amount of runway to get off.
Yeah,
deck,
true. Yeah,
and to start carrying sensible levels of payload. I think the worst thing is if you end up with a really good aircraft, but you can't operate it in and out of airports, and you're weight limited or fuel limited, then you're not doing the job that you're set up to do. So it needs something bigger. So
I didn't realise BA got some flights out of Southampton, Nev.
They have, yes.
Just looking on here,
Yeah,
Bergerac, Alicante, Malaga, Faro.
I think they're seasonal though. They're not running them all year round.
Yeah, I don't know.
Richard Adams points out in the chat room, actually, Bournemouth is just down the road and has got better destinations at the moment. That's for
Has
sure.
it?
So,
Okay.
I think Bournemouth's got a slightly longer runway from memory
Right.
as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I again, I don't think we're. It's going to be a while before we know the answer, really, isn't it? To moving forward, as they say.
Yes.
So, Nev, you've got news on an exciting new seat.
I'm excited by this, and that takes some doing, I have to say, for me. It's on simpleflying.com and also on butterflyseating.com. It says, with the trend of operating long-haul flights using narrow-body aircraft set to continue for the foreseeable, plenty of cabin designers have been working to come up with unique offerings for the passengers on these flights. Well, JetBlue's transatlantic A321LR features a modified Thompson Aero solo seat, whilst Stelia Aerospace offers a similar but different approach to premium cabin comfort. The problem here is that all the super comfortable looking products are aimed at business class travellers. Not all routes will necessarily support a large business class cabin, so plumping for a permanent capacity level could end up limiting the flexibility of these narrow body types. Hong Kong-based Paperclip Design has a great solution to this problem. Its butterfly seat allows airlines to switch between a spacious lie-flat business class product and a comfortable staggered premium economy product without any physical changes being made. Each butterfly seat is arranged in a block of 2 seats with a staggered arrangement. With both seats upright, it's a comfortable product for premium economy or even short-haul business cabin. Passengers will enjoy the extra personal space afforded by the staggered arrangement, ending armrest wars for good. Well, the seat's beauty really shines through when it's converted into business class. The business class setup sees the forwardmost seat of the pair folded down and away, forming a couch type arrangement for suite style space. This can be used for storage, or flyers can even invite a guest over for dinner and a chat. When it comes to time for sleeping, the aisle seat is folded over in a similar manner to create an enormous bed. The designers state that it gives one of the largest and flattest sleeping surfaces in the industry, with some 36 inches of width at the hip and plenty of room to get comfy. The bed area is 81 inches at its longest, enough for a 6'9" giant to stretch out. Unlike many of the concepts that we've seen for other cabin interiors, the Butterfly is pressing ahead in its development process. Last year's Butterfly Flexible Seating Solutions, the commercial arm of Paperclip Design, joined forces with Sikorsky Kydex, Tapis and MGR Foamtex to take the product forward, and the team is currently working on rapid prototyping technology of the product ahead of a move to certify the seat. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? That's I think that's going to be quite revolutionary to have a seat arrangement that deals with both business class and the premium economy sector.
Absolutely. I think I mean one of the videos that John has sent me is actually a little GIF, and we'll make sure the details are in the show notes for people to take a look, because it is genuinely a really fascinating design, and it truly does like maximize the space. I mean, I'll run the little the GIF again here. Look, where it sort of all folds down, and it is it's a really big bed. You would struggle not to be you'd have to go out of your way to not be comfortable in that configuration.
They do look good. I mean, they do look. I love the colours. I
Yeah.
do like the
I quite like the cushions, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I must admit, when you were playing the videos on that story, Matt, I did notice that one of them had a pot plant.
Of course,
sitting on the
absolutely.
side. Which,
well secured, I assume, for landing and takeoff, etc. But there we go. Yeah, it's a great idea, isn't it? I suppose these things are getting cleverer and cleverer, aren't they?
Actually, Rakon makes a very good point in the chat room. He says, "Looks great until cleaning and maintenance."
True, it's all right while it works, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah, good point. Where are you going to drop your phone into it? Yes. At what point in the mechanism will your phone essentially get crushed?
Rich from Sheffield is saying that you still have to pass your seat buddy and wake them up from the window seat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is true. Yes. Yeah, only in premium and economy though, from what we're being told in our ear. But there we go. You know,
I do love
it's
these.
your own pod. You haven't got to sit next. I like the idea. I like the idea of being able to socialise, you know, and invite somebody over for dinner. I mean, not in COVID times, obviously. That's a big no-no. But I quite like that you could sort of, you know, would you like to come and have lunch with me? I just find that delightfully sociable.
How does Carlos know what a pot plant looks like? Lane, trust me, I have many.
No, you don't.
Many. I don't.
No.
But there are many pot plants in this house.
She who must be obeyed is very keen on the pot plant.
Oh, dear.
Yes, indeed.
Anyway.
Indeed.
So, up next, Armando has sent us in another story for you this week. And this one is all about lovely Citation 560 XLs.
From AIN Online, Textron Aviation has handed over its 1,000th Cessna Citation 560 XL series business jet. That's according to the Wichita, Kansas-based company. The milestone Citation XLS Plus was delivered to a customer located in the Northeast U.S. and will be managed and operated by Custom Jet Charters, a Part 135 operator with locations in Palm Beach, Florida, and Westchester County, New York airports. Now, comprising of 3 different variants, the XL, XLS, and XLS Plus, the 560XL has accumulated more than 5 million flight hours since receiving FAA type certification in April of 1998. Every 2 minutes, a 560XL jet takes off or lands somewhere in the world. That's according to Textron Aviation Senior VP of Global Sales and Flight Operations, Lanny O'Banion. They said, This milestone delivery is a direct reflection of our customers' trust and the dedication of our employees who continue to build and support the Citation 560 XL family of aircraft. Additionally, the aircraft's joint venture in China, Cessna Avic Aircraft in Zhuhai, is expected to deliver its 300th XLS Plus this year, which will go to the Civil Aviation Administration of China's Flight Inspection Center. It will be the 6th of 8 XLSs acquired through a purchase agreement signed in December of 2018, according to the company. Now, in the past couple months, we at PTUK have talked about the ending of the production line for certain King Air business turboprops and the venerable Learjet, but this just shows how strong Cessna's share of the market is in the business aviation segment. The Cessna Citation is now and has been just an absolute staple in the medium-sized business jet area.
They're incredible numbers, aren't they, really?
Yes. I've not been on one of these new flashy ones, obviously, but I have been on a 560 XL from Farnborough to Billund in Denmark.
Oh, wow.
Owned by a well-known toy maker of bricks, of plastic bricks.
Right.
Yes, that was a great experience.
Duplo.
And it had a little bar on board as well, which was fabulous. So I enjoyed that. Yeah.
Duplo.
Yes, these aircraft are very nice indeed, aren't they? And yeah, it's great to see that they're doing very well with the newer versions too.
Great. You know, as you say, and how many was it you said that have been sold?
Well, they've just handed over the 1,000.
1,000. Wow.
560 XL series, yeah.
Yeah, of the 560, yeah.
Which is not bad when you consider how much these aircraft cost each. They've sold 1,000 of them.
What are they about? Sort of 10 grand, something like that? Yeah. Yeah. Apparently, there's been over 7,500 Citation jets made overall, which is well, scary numbers. Such scary numbers. Wow.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get a price up on there. There is. Oh, blimey. Blimey.
There's no way she's going to let you have one, Carlos. I don't even know why you're looking at the numbers.
Actually, the second-hand price is not bad. 38 million.
And she's... Okay.
Actually, yeah. That's terrible.
Wow. I mean, that's still no. Yeah, apparently there's something like 16.5 million to start
Yeah,
with. Apparently,
the prices range on the second-hand market between 16.5 million up to 38 million, I suppose, for the ones that have got the gold.
3.8 million.
There's a 3 point. I've got 30. There's no point on my Wikipedia thing here.
Oh, Wikipedia. Oh wow. Okay. Right. Okay.
Is that where I've gone wrong?
Yes. That data that Carlos has just said out loud may or may not be accurate. That's all I can say on that.
Oh yeah.
Rich from Sheffield in the chat room has said, "Can you get them on same-day delivery like you do with Amazon?" Probably is the short answer. If you're spending that kind of money, I want it hand delivered with a bottle of champagne, frankly. But
you probably do get a bottle of champagne when you buy one of those jets. To be fair.
Oh, well, very good. Yes, very good. Oh, okay.
Right, so moving on to the next story, and this one comes to us from Simple Flying and from Twitter as well. Wedding in the skies, or weddings in the skies, something I haven't been to for far too long now.
What, a wedding in the sky?
Well, a wedding anywhere, really.
Oh, yeah, true.
So on Wednesday, a Southwest Airlines pilot got married in Utah. On its own, this doesn't sound like much of a story. However, the marriage took place on one of its company's flights from Las Vegas to Salt Lake City while cruising at 33,000 feet. According to Southwest Airlines, York Zentner met his special somebody, Sabrina Soulsby, at a Southwest Airlines ticket counter in Las Vegas. Oh, how quaint. The two quickly hit it off, and when Sabrina wasn't working, she would accompany York as a passenger on his flights. The two visited many cities during their relationship, one on a trip to Utah's mountains. York proposed during one of the private flights. Fast forward, and the couple knew where they wanted to get married. Given the connection between Southwest Airlines and their relationship, the pair opted to tie the knot on the flight from Las Vegas to Salt Lake City, where they hoped to settle down. The majority of flight WN1711 was over the state of Utah, but so the pair filed for a marriage license in the state. When the big day came, the couple boarded the flight with 15 friends and family and a plane full of Southwest passengers. Once the aircraft was over Utah, the two were married by Andrew Pabsday, another of the airline's pilots. But Southwest weren't the only people talking of weddings in the air this week. Middle Eastern carrier Emirates posted on their social media that they would be launching a special wedding service for those who want to tie the knot at 40,000 feet on their flagship A380 aircraft. The airline shared the news with a picture of the couple tying the knot on the onboard bar. Alas, for those thinking that Emirates A380 weddings would be idyllic, the date on the just married sign on the accompanying picture was marked with April the 1st. And after many inquiries through their social media channels, the airline admitted that it was an April Fool's joke.
Rude.
So if you want an in-flight wedding, you'll just have to fly Southwest.
Okay. I mean, I have so many questions, none of which we probably have time for. But
we've covered stories on the show, haven't we, Matt? With airlines selling airline food to generate.
I'm not reading that comment out.
But yes, thank you, Captain Cruz. But actually, I think it's a damn good idea for airlines to generate.
I like what Laura's
saying
here is love is literally in the air. That's quite cool. Yeah, and now I guess if there's a couple that are absolutely love aviation, and obviously with the Southwest story, obviously, they met through aviation and all that kind of thing. I fully get that. But there's not a cat's hope in hell that Gemma would have ever agreed to marrying you, Carlos, on an aircraft with, just no, it would never happen.
But if you remember, Smith, I did have aviation themed wedding bits.
You did, yes, but we were very much on the ground. There's no joke. I mean, I'm saying this. I'm sort of mocking Carlos here. I mean, but never. Auntie Sue would probably be also similarly as unkeen.
I think it would be one of those eye-rolling moments.
Yeah.
and the fact that Carlos has got away with as much as he has, I find extraordinary.
We are all shocked.
I thought that the throttle quadrant was going to be the last, last straw. But he seems to have got away with that as well.
I know. I fully expected Carlos to be living here in the studio when that came home. I'll be honest. But hey, what do I know? Clearly, nothing.
It keeps me out of harm's way during the day,
and that's why she lets you do it.
Yeah. But no, I think it's a great story. I think for people, you've seen how well companies such as, say, the plane reclaimers have done selling pieces of aircraft. People are going mad on buying bits of old aircraft. So all the people who love flying and love aviation, young couples who might want to get married, would probably pay to fly on an aircraft and take 15, 30 of their family and friends and get married, while at cruise somewhere. I think it's a bloody good way of making money myself.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, people go to Vegas and get married in, Cadillacs and random weird churches and stuff like that in Vegas. So why not on board an aircraft?
If it's your thing, then yeah, absolutely. I can see that. I can get that. Yeah. Oh well, there we go.
So there's an extra little story here at the end, isn't there, which I must read out. Actually, I think it was sent to us by one of our listeners. Sent us a link to this through our social medias, and this was on the Australian Aviation site, and the Australian Aviation. Is that military? Oh, well. Why has it been put in the bottom of the commercial? Who put that in there?
Okay, right, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Plain Truce, I think, is up next, my friend.
Yes, Plain Truce is up next. We're back with Captain Al and Matt for this week's Plain Truce, and don't know what this week's one is about because it's not in the show notes, but
it's all about cabin temperatures, basically. So here we go. Hello and welcome to The Plain Truth, and this week we're going to be talking about cabin temperature. Joining me as always is the legend that is Captain Al. Hi, Captain Al.
Good evening, Matt. I see we've gone for a contentious one then.
Yes, indeed. I'm very much looking forward to this one. Now, one of the things that I know I don't do a great deal of flying, but one of the things I really do struggle with is I've never been on an aircraft yet where the temperature has been right for me. So I've got lots of questions really about sort of the air conditioning on an aircraft and how it works.
Okay, so it's an interesting one because as you might be able to see this evening, I'm sat in a t-shirt and you are in a jumper.
Yes.
So we start from the basic premise that your requirement for the temperature of room that you're in right now might be wholly different to mine. So that's one of the starting points that we have to deal with this, is that none of us are the same. Now, for example, my wife functions very badly if the temperature in a room is less than 21 degrees. I tend to function better when the temperature is below 21 degrees.
Yeah.
So, we're all quite different. So let's start to chip away at this. So on an aeroplane, there are going to be, well, let's just say as a starting point, a couple of hundred people, okay? We're going to do a flight from Ibiza to Manchester. It's the summer, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. So of our 200 passengers, 198 of them are going to be in hot pants and vest tops.
I mean, slight stereotyping there, but...
Well, it's kind of how it is. The remaining 2 passengers were an elderly couple who were missold their flight by their travel agent. They were told it was going to be a day flight, right. So they are now happily partying away with the other 198 passengers who were in vests and hot pants.
Okay.
They are going to get onto our aircraft, and they are going to be relatively warm. because of all the sunburn that they've got because they didn't put their suntan cream on. No, I joke. They're going to get on the aeroplane. But our elderly couple are wrapped up a little bit warmer, and they're feeling a little bit cold. So they, going to ask for the heating to be turned up. And our party animals are going to be a bit hot, and they're going to want the temperature turned down. So we've already got a little bit of a battle going on. Plus, of course, we have the people who are in control of the cabin temperature, and that is the cabin crew. And, they will be doing a hot meal service at some point. So as you can imagine, when you're serving a couple of hundred hot meals, you might get hot yourself. So what you're going to do, you're going to turn the temperature down. You're going to serve all the meals, and then you're going to have your break. You're going to sit on an aluminium bar box in the forward galley, which is by one of the doors, where it is cold. You're therefore going to turn the temperature up. People have had a nice hot meal, the temperature goes up, and everybody goes to sleep. Everybody's happy. That's the kind of theory. But it is a constant battle because different aeroplanes have different levels of sophistication within their cabin temperature control and monitoring. And of course, if you imagine a big aluminium tube and you put temperature of, say, 21 degrees air into it, where there are colder bits of the aircraft, you're going to measure the temperature less. So where do you decide to measure the temperature for setting your air conditioning? It's quite a long tube, so quite often at the middle of the aeroplane are the people who are complaining the most, because there's a sensor at the front, there's a sensor at the back, and on something like a 737 or an A321, the cabin crew have a selector for the temperature at the front of the cabin, and they have a selector for the temperature at the back of the cabin. What they don't have is one for the middle. So it's a constant battle. And then there are some aircraft manufacturers who are better at designing systems that are able to cater for this. So on some aircraft, you might set the cabin to be at 16 degrees, and the best that you can achieve is something in the order of 30 degrees. So, there are some air conditioning systems that really aren't particularly good. And then, of course, you'll get some where all of a sudden it'll go really, really cold, so people will turn the selector up, and then it'll go really, really hot. I have to say that, of course, I'm biased, but on the A320 family, generally speaking, if people put the control in the middle and don't touch it, more people are happier than not. The cabin crew have a small range of control. We don't trust them with the whole thing. We have the master control in the cockpit. They have a small control, and they can move it up and down half a degree or so, and they are happy. And funny enough, half a degree, just like half an inch, does make a difference. If you can keep the majority of people happy most of the time, then you're doing a good job. It's just one of those things. It's an almost impossible task, because if you've got 200 people, you're going to have 200 different opinions as to whether it's hot or cold. I did have an idea once on a connected aeroplane where everybody's got seatback TVs, that if you were too hot, you'd press a little button on your seatback TV and say, I'd like it colder, and there'd be some sort of voting system, and if the majority of people in your zone were too hot, then the temperature lowered a degree, and I thought that would be quite good. Of course, you'll always get people then who are really, really hot, but just for the sake of skewing the argument, they'd select for more heat, which would just mess it up for everybody. But it's a tricky one. The way that we produce the air in the aircraft is complicated, to say the very least. Some aeroplane manufacturers are better at designing the systems for customer comfort. But of course, you've got to remember that if you're sat down, you're going to be a little bit cooler than if you're exercising by delivering hot meals.
Does some of this have something to do with the age of the aircraft as well? For example, I use a car as an analogy. If you're lucky enough to have a nice car, you can actually have a different temperature for the driver versus the passenger sitting next to them. I mean, do such things exist on aircraft where you can fluctuate the temperature sort of like in smaller zones? Are they in zones, or is it just one aircraft?
Yeah, so on sort of 737, A320, we have basically forward and aft. When you get onto larger aircraft, like 330 has forward, mid and aft. And then I'm sure that if you get onto the 380, well, first of all, you've got two different decks to cater for. So you're going to have completely different dynamics on the upper deck to lower deck. Plus, of course, if you're then looking at different classes of cabin within the aircraft, if that was part of the original design spec, you might say, okay, well, we'll make first class its own zone. We'll make business class its own zone. So, there are lots of options available there. But for sure, what you're going to do is to try to split it up the bigger the aircraft, because just the range of temperatures that will exist in a particular area of the aircraft. So, and you mentioned age. We're certainly not going to say that older aircraft, the air conditioning also that provides the pressurization, is any worse. But what you might find that is an older aircraft, the ability to control the temperature to quite close tolerances might be much poorer. So you might get that it's really, really hot, it's really, really cold, it's really, really hot. And of course, you do get defects on the air conditioning system. So sometimes you can have, regulation faults that mean that the thing is permanently cycling between hot and cold, and there's not much that you can do about that other than try to reset it in the air and then get it fixed on the ground. So just like anything else, they are quite complicated systems. They can go wrong from a temperature regulation point, or they might not have been designed particularly well in the first place.
And another question I've got, this is probably going to sound like a really daft question to you, but is the cargo hold heated?
So again, that's an option. So like many things on an aeroplane, when you're buying it from new, you can choose all sorts of options. So cargo hold heating is an option. And if you go for the option, you can control the cargo holds. It's not really something that most sort of short haul operators will go for, because what's in the cargo hold typically isn't anything that is live. I mean, we do carry cats and dogs in unheated holes, but I will give you the caveat that the ventilation for those holes is basically the outflow air from the cabin. So although the holes aren't independently heated, the air that is leaving the cabin, vented from the cabin, goes out through those holes. So they're not sub-zero down there. They're going to be cooler than the cabin. So I think when I was at Monarch Airlines, we had a restriction that we couldn't have cats and dogs in the hold if the flight was longer than 6 hours.
Right.
And we never had any problems with that sort of thing. Conversely, one of the things that you do sometimes have to do and consider is not so much cargo hold heating, but cargo hold cooling. One of the things that you might be carrying in the hold might generate quite a lot of heat. So this is one of those very random things, but newborn chicks, so day-old chickens, are quite often transported by air, and chickens generate a huge amount of heat. If you've ever been in a chicken shed, they're extremely hot. Yeah. So chickens generate a lot of heat. So you have to be very careful with day-old chicks. So they had a restriction of 3 hours, not because they would get too cold, but they would get too hot and die. So sometimes you need cargo cooling, if you like. So it's not just a heating function. It's an option. Large aircraft that are traveling greater distances will have that because they'll be carrying a lot more in the way of cargo. So for example, tropical fish, corals, that sort of thing, moved around the world an awful lot. The ornamental fish trade is quite a massive industry. So if you were to go into, lockdown aside, your pet shop locally to you, a lot of those fish will have come from Thailand, Indonesia, all over the world, and therefore will have flown by air. So keeping them at a reasonable temperature is quite important. And when you have cargo documents, it will usually specify a temperature to keep the cargo if you're carrying live goods.
Wow. Fantastic. As always, many thanks, Captain Al.
It's a pleasure.
Good work again, as always, Matt and Captain Al.
I just ask a question and off he goes. I mean, it's the easiest segment to record in the entire world. Micah is actually saying passenger aircraft heating systems are designed to make people the least uncomfortable, not at all have anything to do with comfort.
Yeah, lots of comments in the chat room
Yeah.
actually about this. One is from Rich from Sheffield, who is saying that he flew on a 757 with 4 of us and 4 cabin attendants and 2 other passengers after the Iceland volcano. One of the first flights out of the UK, and it was blooming freezing.
Oh, really?
On board there. And Pip was saying that the worst experience he'd had was with a passenger on a Turkish Airlines flight from Istanbul to Paris, and the aircon was clearly knackered and cycled from maximum hot to maximum cold and back again constantly on a 25-minute cycle. It's one of those things, though, it's quite interesting, though, when you think about it, how aircraft maintain a kind of constant nice temperature for passengers. But
I think you've also got, and I don't want to be disingenuous, of course, but but I'm about to be probably. I once worked in an office where the thermostat control was actually broken at least 2 or 3 times a year because people in the same office space could not agree on what the temperature should be.
Really?
And you are going to get, variations between one person and another, I'm sure. But there is a lot of variation in temperature, isn't there? And some aircraft seem to be very cold, some to be very hot. For me, most of the time it's okay. But yeah, just occasionally, especially on a night flight, it seems it's always quite chilly, so you do need to wrap up.
Indeed. Breaking news from Rich in Sheffield, by the way, was actually saying that strong possibility, essentially, that Ryanair will start charging for heat soon. So that you heard it here first. Breaking news from Rich in Sheffield. Oh dear.
Imagine that. It's minus 40 outside and it's minus 40 inside.
Right.
Really?
I'd be glad if I brought my parka with me. Do you know what I mean? So I can sort of wrap up warm.
Those warm paninis will go down well in that kind of temperature.
There'll be blocks at that temperature.
Right, so it is military aviation news time. So if everyone's ready.
Indeed. Yes, good luck, everyone. Here we go.
In this first military story from Defense News, the U.S. Army enters a final phase of development before kicking off its Future Long-Range Assault Aircraft program. In Washington, D.C., the U.S. Army has awarded contracts to both Bell and Sikorsky Boeing teams to continue into a second phase of competitive development and risk reduction as the service prepares to begin its formal program to acquire a future long-range assault aircraft by the year 2030. Now awarded through the Aviation and Missile Technology Consortium, Bell and the Sikorsky Boeing teams will each conduct a preliminary analysis of requirements for Special Operations Command, including for medical evacuation and the features that allow for the aircraft's export to other countries, according to a March 30th Army statement. At the start of the official program of record for FLRAA in 2022, the Army will choose a winner between the two teams to build prototypes. The Army awarded contracts to both teams a year ago to continue conducting analysis to refine those requirements, conceptual designs, and acquisition approaches needed to successfully execute the FLRAA program. Through its entire process, Bell flew its V-280 Valor tilt-rotor aircraft, and Sikorsky Boeing team flew its SB Defiant coaxial demonstrator. Now, Defiant had more trouble getting off the ground due to issues in manufacturing in its rotor blades, and thus it started its testing over a year late, taking off for the first time in March of 2019. Now, the V-280 had its first flight in 2017. In a March 31st statement, Bell said that through a rigorous flight test program, the aircraft has flown more than 200 hours during more than 160 individual test flights that delivered critical data to validate Bell's digital models and performance. Now, Defiant has logged 31 flights, accumulating 26 hours in the air, but has also logged 1,500 hours in its systems integration lab and 148 hours in its propulsion test bed, according to a March 31st Lockheed Martin statement. Lockheed Martin currently owns Sikorsky. The conclusion of this phase of testing will allow the winner to complete preliminary design reviews for both the air vehicle and weapon systems in less than a year after the programmatic contract award. That's according to an Army statement that noted, thus advancing the schedule to an earlier decision to enter into engineering and manufacturing development.
So, I mean, now I'm going to pop the picture back up, if I may, actually, because see, I look at that and I think, oh, that looks very like the Osprey.
He is very much like the Osprey. It's the same from the same family, but the only difference being is the obviously body itself is a lot smaller.
Right.
Than the
Okay.
V22.
Yeah.
If you put the V22 alongside that, the V22 would sort of kind of be nearly twice the size, but it's a lot bigger. But it does look. I do love that in all black. It definitely beats all bloody grey.
Rotor clearance is always an interesting topic, isn't it? I wonder what it really is on some of these rotary aircraft.
Lane has pointed out something in the chat room, as Lane always does, that Armando's clocks were wrong.
Right. Okay. I mean, on tape. And all
they
that.
were
But
right at the time.
They were right. At the time of recording, they were correct. Is that how we get out of that? I'm not really sure. Anyway, shall we move on to the next story? Story number 2 is from the airforcetechnology.com website, and the headline is Future RAF will mix crew fighters, UAVs and swarming drones. So speaking at an International Institute for Strategic Studies virtual event, the head of the UK's Armed Forces Chief of Defence Staff, General Sir Nick Carter, said that by 2030 a Royal Air Force tactical formation could be made up of 2 Typhoon fighter jets, 10 Mosquito uncrewed fighter aircraft and 100 Alvino swarming uncrewed aerial vehicles. Mosquito's the RAF's name for a programme to build the UK's first uncrewed fighter aircraft, able to target and shoot down adversaries' aircraft. The project is currently being led by Spirit Aerosystems with an aim for full-scale flight tests in 2023. Mosquito is designed to fill the role of a loyal wingman, flying alongside crew fighter jets, increasing combat mass at a lower cost. Commenting on the future mix of aircraft, Carter told the Institute think tank, I think by 2030 it's entirely respectable for us to posit a view that a tactical formation in the Air Force will move from being 8 Typhoon to being 2 Typhoon, 10 Mosquitoes and 100 Alvino, because that is another way of generating significant mass, and you can see that playing out both inland and maritime domains as well. Alvina is to be a swarming drone platform and was mentioned by the Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Sir Mike Wigston, at the Royal United Services Institute Lord Trenchard for the memorial lecture earlier this year. Speaking at the RUSI event earlier this year, Wigston described the future Royal Air Force as being made up of Tempest, F-35, Mosquitoes, Alvina and Protector remotely piloted air systems, the RPAS, and 80% uncrewed or remotely piloted aircraft. It's sounds
like one of those weird sort of sci-fi films when you say the word swarming drones. Have this sort of vision of thousands of drones all just flying through the sky at one time.
Yeah, I suppose it's one of those things we can do, like, where they're all sort of, you have essentially one person who's in the field and then all of the other aircraft automatically follow it, I guess, all the drones and that kind of thing. Richard Adams is saying in the chat room, isn't the estimated delivery date for those expected to be 2035? So let's be realistic, 2045.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, possibly. Hello? Oh, I see. Right, sorry. Okay.
I wonder what that was then.
Sorry, John's phone went off. He's probably got... His pizza's probably arriving.
His pizza's arrived,
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, Pips. Pip's sent him a pizza over from the UK.
Right, okay, that's good. Yes, lovely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next story comes to us again from Armando, and this one's all about things being scrambled.
Indeed.
This next story comes to us from the Aviationist. NATO Interceptors scrambled 10 times in 6 hours to shadow Russian bombers and fighters near Alliance airspace. NATO fighter jets shadowed Russian bombers and fighters during an unusual peak of flights over the North Atlantic, the North Sea, the Black Sea, and the Baltic Sea. Monday, March 29, 2021 was particularly busy for NATO fighters. According to the NATO Allied Air Command, its fighters, providing air policing at various locations along the borders of the alliance, intercepted different groups of Russian military aircraft near NATO airspace in less than 6 hours. According to a quote, they say intercepting multiple groups of Russian aircraft demonstrates NATO forces' readiness and capability to guard Allied skies 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, said Brigadier General Andrew Hansen, Deputy Chief of Staff of Operations at Allied Air Command, Ramstein Air Base, Germany. He said that in a public release. In the high north, Norwegian F-16 scrambled after radars spotted 2 groups of Russian military aircraft flying near Norway's coast. The Norwegian jets intercepted 2 Tu-95 Bear bombers, which continued to fly south over the North Sea, prompting the United Kingdom and Belgium to scramble Typhoon and F-16 fighters, respectively. That's according to a NATO statement, although the aircraft depicted in the photographs released by the Royal Air Force were Tu-142 Bear F, long-range maritime patrol reconnaissance and anti-submarine warfare. The Belgian Air Force F-16s were also scrambled to respond to the Russian bombers' presence over the North Sea. The Belgian Vipers have recently returned to full operational status after being grounded following an incident last month in which an F-16 experienced an engine problem taking off from Florend. In the Baltic Sea, the Italian Air Force Eurofighter Typhoons deployed to Calais, Lithuania, to support NATO Baltic air policing missions, where they identified a Russian IL-38 Dolphin anti-submarine warfare aircraft, which was escorted by the F-2000s over the Baltic Sea, flying into and out of Kaliningrad. Interestingly, a photo of this intercept has been released by NATO Allied Air Command and shows the Russian IL-38 escorted by 2 Su-27 flankers flying in formation with the Italian Eurofighters, one clearly visible in the photo, another one not visible because it was the camera's ship. For me, it was pretty impressive as I was reading this story to see how much information these tail watchers and plane spotters were able to get from social media, and honestly, they just have a complete picture of the air picture over Europe using commercially available means.
I mean, wow. Wow.
They do keep coming and seeing us every now and often for a little kind of chat, don't they? Our Russian friends, but it does prove a point that when our guys need to, they can be up in the skies, as even like the Norwegian, the F-16s are obviously scrambled. We can our quick, or is it quick response QRA, isn't it, Nev?
Yes.
QRA, quick response aircraft, can be up in the air fairly quickly, making sonic booms and all that kind of stuff. But it's good. Thank you for that, Armando. He's good, isn't he? He's sending in these,
absolutely,
saving us that.
Really appreciate him avoiding, because of course he understands it, and he's very good at explaining stuff as well, which is huge, isn't it?
So Nev, you have got the next story, and this one's about retirements.
It is. It's on the aviationist.com, and it says that the RAF are set to retire the older Typhoons, Chinooks and other types following the Defence Review, which is going to radically transform the Royal Air Force, Army and Navy by the next decade, and it's been described as one of the largest since the Cold War. According to the Defence in a Competitive Age report, the Integrated Defence Review assessed the major trends that will shape the national security and international environment up until 2030. Among the trends that have been identified, 4 are considered to be of particular importance: geopolitical and geo-economic shifts, systemic competition, rapid technology change, and transnational challenges that require collective action, such as climate change, biosecurity risks, terrorism, and serious and organised crime. These trends will be affected also by the long-term effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The review also specifically mentions Russia and terrorism as ongoing challenges. Well, let's have a look at the consequences of the Defence Review on the armed forces, beginning with the Royal Air Force. Well, the combat air capability, which will continue to grow over the next few years as all 7 operational Typhoon squadrons will be fully established, and the Lightning II force will be increased beyond the 48 F-35Bs already ordered. Works will continue also for the 6th generation aircraft, with a strategic investment of more than £2 billion over the next 4 years in the Future Combat Air System. To reach these objectives, however, the RAF needs to make some cuts, retiring equipment to improve efficiency. Among the soon-to-be retired aircraft we can find are the older Tranche 1 Typhoons, which will leave the RAF by 2025, and also the Hawk T1 trainers. This will allow new funds for the Typhoon and F-35 development. After the T1 retirement, only 28 newer Hawk T2 trainers will remain in service. One notorious unit that uses the Hawk T1 is the Red Arrows aerobatic team, which might retain for now all of its aircraft. According to the Express, the Red Arrows will not be touched by the review, but the clock is ticking for them as the MOD can no longer afford to finance them. Other soon-to-be retired aircraft can be found in the support area. The RAF is retiring the BA-146 as planned by 2022 and the C-130 Hercules by 2023. These capabilities should be fulfilled by the A400M Atlas, the C-17 Globemaster and the Voyager tanker. Special mention goes to the BA-146, the aircraft which is operated by 32 Squadron, which is for the Royal Squadron for VIP and transport flights, was planned to be retired from service on March the 31st, 2022 and replaced by a new type that was under consideration. Although the review did not mention any replacement for aircraft, there's been things in the media which were suggesting an Airbus A321neo with United Kingdom painted on its tail. So that'll be interesting to see whether that actually comes into service or not. The article went on to highlight additional airframes, unmanned aircraft and helicopters that will soon be retired as part of the review. So quite a big shake-up, as always, and it's always down to cost, isn't it? And I remember when Nick was talking to Sir Richard Johns, what was it, last year? We played out that series, wasn't it? And he was saying that, you know, when there's a defence review, it normally means one thing, and that there's a raid on the bank, basically. So, but I must admit, interesting to see what's happening there.
I must admit, I didn't realise that. So the Red Arrows, which is obviously the one that we're all very familiar with. I sort of assumed that they were sort of self-funding. Are they essentially paid for by the military then?
They're funded by the MOD as far as I'm aware, and obviously they're running the Hawk T2 trainers, which they've run for many years. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens. So they flew over my house only, was it yesterday or the day before? I can't remember. I guess on a bit of a tour around the environs of London. So wasn't fast enough for a camera, unfortunately.
Wow. So Richard Adams is saying in the chat room that there was an oddly named exercise Lobster the other week. All the southern danger zones were activated at the same time. Not noticed that happened before. No idea if it's related.
Exercise Lobster. We're always talking about food on this show.
Any excuse. Any excuse.
Yeah.
Quite, indeed. Okay, on to the next story then.
Yeah, this one comes to us from AustralianAviation.com, AustralianAviation.com.au, and SMH.com.au as well, and RAAF's centenary flypast in Canberra. So Wednesday this week saw a spectacular flypast of aircraft from the RAAF over Canberra to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Royal Australian Air Force. The display, the most ambitious attempted in years, featured 60 warbirds and modern aircraft such as the Spitfire, Caribou, C-130J and FA-18 Hornet. Air Marshal Mel Hupfeld spoke about the Air Force's evolution from basic airplanes to boasting a fleet of characterised by high-tech capabilities, including space and cyber. In our first 100 years, he said, in conflict, peacekeeping, search and rescue, disaster relief and humanitarian assistance, Air Force developed a reputation within our nation and among our global partners for courage, perseverance and overcoming adversity. He said, we constantly deliver air power well above the weight of an air force our size. Air Marshal Hupfield said. More than 350,000 Australians have served in the Air Force since 1921, and 11,191 have died in service during that time. He says, we will always remember their service and sacrifice. On March the 31st, 100 years ago, the Australian Air Force was formed, and 5 months later, its royal designation was added to create the Royal Australian Air Force. It was the only second Royal Air Arm in the British Commonwealth following the formation of the RAF. Her Majesty the Queen attended a special service at the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, or CWGC, Air Force's Memorial in Runnymede, Surrey, to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the RAAF. Also, the Red Arrows flew over parts of the UK on Wednesday, including over the CWGC. Couldn't see them here, unfortunately, because there was such low cloud. Anyway, the aircraft it included in a flyover, quite a few here actually, just go through the C-27J Spartan, F-35 Lightning II, FA-18 Super Hornet, E-18 Growler, C-130J Hercules, S-70A Black Hawk, Hudson, Boomerang, Seahawk, Harvard, Wirraway, Mustang, Spitfire, P-40 Kitty Hawk, 5 AP-3C Orion, Neptune, Dakota, Caribou, Catalina, Iroquois, PC-21 Pilatus, B-300 King Air 350, C-27J Spartan, we said that one already, the PAA Poseidon, E-7A Wedgetail, C-17 Globemaster 3, the KC-30 MRTT, and also the RAAF display team, the Roulettes, also took part in the day. So we obviously couldn't see it here.
Let me guess, cloud cover?
And we're not across the pond in Australia, and we couldn't see the red arrows either, as I said, because the ceilings were too low here, and they actually just skimmed East Anglia, Matt, on their route, because I know Nev sent us a little diagram of their route over. It was almost like they wanted to stay well clear of East Anglia on their route over.
I mean, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the chat room is still talking about the exercise lobster in the chat room, but by the way. So if I'm going to participate in exercise lobster, there had better be drawn butter, Main Man Micah is suggesting. I think that's an excellent serving suggestion. Neil Lamward is saying, after the cutbacks, we'll only be able to manage exercise langoustines. Good point, yes. Yeah, that is a good point.
Christ, me and you will be on shrimps then, Matt.
Oh, dear. Oh, my. I must apologise, by the way, guys. I've got a very weird bug here in the studio that has made things very laggy. So apologies for that. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I'm going to look into that as soon as the show is finished. But so apologies that the things are not as they should be on the YouTube stream this time round.
So, Nev, I think we'll move to you for this one. We've got some sort of kind of not breaking news, but extra news, haven't we?
Yes. It's in your favourite part of the world also, isn't it? It's on the simpleflying.com website, and it says that a Ryanair Boeing 737-800 has ended up in a sticky situation in Malta today after it ploughed into a line of parked Bowsers parked on the apron. It appears that the tow bar snapped whilst the aircraft was being manoeuvred, leaving it freewheeling across the airfield. The 737 continued to roll after the tow bar failure, ending up crashing into a line of fuel tankers parked at the side of the apron. Three were reportedly hit, although the damage to the aircraft itself appears minimal. Malta International Airport confirmed the incident in a statement, saying, "We can confirm that an incident involving an aircraft being towed occurred earlier today at 11:29 a.m. No passengers were on board the aircraft in question, and no injuries have been reported as a result of this incident." The airport's rescue and firefighting team were dispatched to the scene immediately, taking control of the area in question. The aerodrome was temporarily closed and reopened again to flight operations at 12:20 p.m. Worth noting, this is the 400th 737-800 delivered to Ryanair. It's 5 years old, and it's now actually registered under Malta Air. And 2 aircraft were diverted as a result of the airport closure. So, yes, I mean, if you do have a tow bar snap, it makes a heck of a noise, because I have been on what was it? A British Midland 737, I think, at Heathrow. We just pushed back. We just started to move, and the tow bar snapped, and it was a heck of a row. And of course, we had to deplane the aircraft and delays and blah blah blah. So
I was always under the impression, Nev, that when they are moving aircraft with a tow bar, and I might be wrong, but I always thought there was supposed to be someone on the flight deck.
Just about to say the same thing.
If something happens, they can either pull the park and brake or push both feet forward on the...
And I would be interested to know, and presumably they need the APU running for this as well, so that they've got hydraulic pressure for the brakes, I would imagine. So, yeah, there's something that doesn't quite add up with this. So perhaps we'll ask our chum, Captain Al, what he thinks about it. Yeah, interesting. But anyway, at least it was a relatively minor incident, although it could have been an awful lot worse.
I was then thinking that. You said essentially an aircraft crashed into a load of fuel trucks. That's essentially the story here, isn't it? I mean, you just sort of think potentially there was quite an explosive situation.
Yes, I was trying to not do a mainstream media big hype. I was just trying to play it down.
I was just channeling my inner Lane. That was what I was doing.
Richard Adams makes a comment in the chat room, actually, guys. He says that don't they have at least a competent brake operator in the cockpit while it's being towed, not necessarily a pilot.
Someone that's certainly competent to be in the cockpit and, when anything's happening with the aircraft being towed across the apron or different parts of the airport. So
could have been a very different story, though, couldn't it? Let's be honest. Miles High is saying there must have been nobody in the cockpit, is what Miles High is suggesting.
Very peculiar.
It's lots of this story doesn't add up. I think that's the best way to describe it. Alex Robinson, what was he saying? Oh, the toe snapped. Sounds painful. Ouch. Yeah,
mind you, at the other end of the field, just where that happened, not far from where that happened on the picture, when you just show the picture on there is the massive Lufthansa Technik building where that can be repaired. So at least it
didn't have to go far for
didn't have to go fair to be old.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we're being told, but perhaps Ryanair don't have a contract with them. Maybe that's why not. Yes. Okay. There we go. Well, that's it, guys. That is the stories for this week. All done and dusted.
So, Nev, what's coming up next week? Because we have got a guest.
I'm looking forward to next week. I look forward to every week, but next week I'm really looking forward to, because we are interviewing live on the show Michelle from the website Turning Left for Less. Ooh. Now, you might remember a couple of years ago now, I went to see Michelle at her house. I'd interviewed her there. She'd only recently started the website at that point, and she has gone on from strength to strength, and it is a really, really interesting website, and also all the social media interaction she does as well. So have a look on your Twitter and Facebook for Turning Left for Less, and also look her up on Google as well. She'll be joining us live on the show at 7 o'clock next week. Can't wait.
So don't forget, looking forward to that, Nev. Don't forget social media links. If you want to make a bookmark ready for next week's show, you can find us over on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Just search for Plain Talking UK. Don't forget as well that WhatsApp number, +44 757 224 9166. If you want to get your picture on the green screen behind Matt in the PTK Studios, or you can even behind me on my green screen, or even on Nev's green screen as well. So you can. Thank you for that, John. You can also email feedback if you want to send us an email. We'd love to hear from you, the listener. If you want to send us some feedback, you can send that via email to podcast@planetalkinguk.com. Don't forget to check out our website, all the w's.planetalkinguk.com. On there, you'll find our shop where you can treat yourself to one of our P2K t-shirts with the embroidered logo on the front and print on the back. And they're very 100% cotton, lovely, gorgeous, soft t-shirts. And also, if you're thinking of having a hot beverage, or cold beverage to be fair, or a beer, you can purchase one of our P2K mugs on the store as well. And also on the website you'll find the links to Amazon, where if you're going to do your shopping on Amazon, which I did do today, you can use our link and do your purchases through our link. We get a small referral fee from Amazon, and it doesn't cost you a penny. And also the links are on there for Patreon and PayPal if you want to become a patron of the show and help push the show along. It's definitely going to make a big difference to some people who do the Patreon and PayPal in the next few coming months when we announce a certain big milestone show. But you can find those links on there as well for Patreon and PayPal. And it's great to see everyone joining us as always.
Lane's concerned because we're already ending the show. It's I should stress that we've always been aiming for an hour and a half, and this is the first time that we've got anywhere near close to it. So we're still running a little bit late. Yes, but as I say, got a few problems here in the studio, so we're sort of cutting our losses while it's still okay. While we're still on air, we're making the most of it.
It's worth noting, actually, Matt, when I breezed past Norwich last week, as in the
you being out and about.
Norwich. I know. I actually had to go past Norwich. I did glance at the massive amount of aircraft they have stored there now, which is quite good to see. Which I think. Thank you, John. Yeah. I knew he'd say something. John's telling me to rattle on here, but I'm talking about aviation here. So anyone who lives in and around East Anglia, if you get a chance to drive along the NDR, isn't it, Matt?
I don't think it's called that now, but everybody around here knows it as the Northern Distributor Road. Yeah, absolutely. But
there's good display of stuff.
There's a lot of BA stuff still sat there, isn't there? Actually,
yeah. Well, probably they're waiting for Nev to purchase them. But
right, okay, maybe just a seat on one. I don't know about an actual aircraft. Yeah, Sue wouldn't tolerate that. There's no two way.
Nev, what is on the cards for Mr. Bounds next week?
Oh, more driving, because from April the 1st, we are allowed to go and see customers. So I am taking advantage of that. So I've already been to Peterborough once this week.
Oh, I am so sorry to hear that.
Which, you
didn't go in your car, did you, Nev?
I certainly did. I saw a real customer. Incredible.
Wow. Okay, and you came back with all the same wheels on?
Yeah. That's right, I did. And
That's amazing.
Next week I'm off to see another customer down in the West Country, so I'm looking forward to that. Yes, so all very full on again, I'm pleased to say. So, no flying yet. I think that'll be until at least middle
September.
of May. But we'll have to
right.
And Matt, what's on the cards for you this week? Obviously, more awesome customer service and awesome radio shows.
Yes, although the day job is on hold until Tuesday now. It's very exciting. I've got the bank holiday weekend off. Actually, I'm on the radio again on Bank Holiday Monday. If you listen if you download and listen to this on the Sunday, the audio version, you'll be able to ask your smart speaker. If you're not here in the East, it's 105.2. If you're here in Bungay, and 107.6 in Dis. If you want to listen to it on FM, but
actually, it's worth pointing out for those listeners who are listening to the show across the pond or around the globe. Matt, our very awesome Armando was actually listening to you today.
Oh, he was, yes, absolutely. Oh, that video he sent us of, I think, what was I doing the news or something? And there's quite a funky sort of news bed that I'm reading the news over, and there was Matty and Meg's busy bopping away to it. It was really quite a lovely video. But no, loads of people were listening today. It was fantastic. But yeah, 12 till 3 on Bank Holiday Monday, I'm on the radio. And if you're not here in this area, you can ask your smart speaker to play Park Radio Dis. That's Park Radio Dis. There we are. Because I keep saying it really quickly into my Alexa. I end up with a Heart Norfolk. I don't know quite what happened there, but so definitely don't want that to happen. You definitely want to be listening to me. But yeah, so I'm on 12 till 3. Not really sure what music I'm going to play, so feel free to ping some messages and pick some songs.
Oh, look forward to that.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. That's true. Yes. +44 757 2249 166. That's +44 757 2249 166, or 01379 210000 if you want to text the Park Radio Studio straight away. But anyway, whatever.
And Mr. Neil Landwarn has already dropped one in there for you, Matt.
Oh, go on. Yeah.
He said, "So, Matt, you're a disc jockey now."
Oh, I see what he did there. There. It's a play on the word. It's the play on the town, isn't it? I like it. Okay, yeah.
So next week I'll be work and driving.
Oh yes,
a lorry.
Yeah. What are you doing, Carlos? So that was very rude.
so next week I'll be transporting multiple hospital grade equipment across East Anglia again, as I always do. I might even have a day in the office Wednesday. That'd be nice.
All steady.
I know. I managed it once this week as well, so that's quite good. Anywho, we are going to say a massive... That's what she said. We're going to say a massive thanks to everyone who's joined us in the live YouTube chat room this evening. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And also, don't forget a big thanks to everyone who downloads the show as an audio podcast. And if you do download us and listen to me, Matt, Nev, and Armando as an audio podcast, don't forget as well to leave us a little review on iTunes or wherever you download the show from. We really would appreciate that very muchly. Big thanks as well to John for all his hard work in the pre-production on the show this week. So a big round of applause to John. And so it just leaves me to say from Nev in his glorious background there, studio in Buckinghamshire, from Matt in the PTUK studios across the village from me, and from me here in my home studio, have a great weekend. Have a great Easter holiday. Take care, everyone, and stay safe. See you next Friday. Bye-bye.